Okay, gang. All right. So, look, it's time for me to address some controversy head on. Okay. I never duck no fades. All right. Virtual fades, real life fades, I'm definitely ducking those. But a lot of people have been on my case. Okay. A lot of people have been on my bumper saying, Trap, you was wrong. You was wrong about 21 Savage. 21 Savage isn't a snake. He's the voice of reason in this situation. So, look. All right, true to my statement, okay? I'm not scared of no controversy. I will address what people are saying. I want to take a look at the comments and I want to reiterate some of the points that I made. And I'll admit, if maybe I was a little harsh to Big 21, 21, 21, all right? Maybe I was a little bit harsh to him, but I do still think he was kind of slimy and two-faced in what he did, okay? So look, in this video that I did, all right, embarrassing 21 Savage League proves that he's a snake. I'll admit, all right, I walked it back a little bit, all right? I retitled the video, Embarrassing 21 Savage League proves that Thug's a snake, because it proves that Thug's a snake. But I'm going to listen to the people, okay? I'm going to listen to the people. Everybody's telling me 21 Savage ain't a snake. So look, let's take a little look at the video. Let's take a look at some of the comments on the video, okay? And find out what's going on with this snakery, okay? So look, when I made the video, all right, I'll just reiterate, okay? But yeah, this is just really not a good look. Let me just reiterate my stance on this video, okay? I personally felt like 21 Savage was a snake in the way that he was talking. Now, to his credit, okay, a lot of people were saying, okay, look, 21's the voice of reason. He's telling Thug not to be so hard on Gunna. Now, that is true in one sense. That is true in one sense, okay? To be fair, he is one of the only people, and I've got to give him his credit for this, okay? I'm going to be very fair and give 21 Savage his credit, because I've been saying from the very start, and I still believe it now, the one thing that Thug could do to reverse all of the bad attention, all of the negative karma that he's been having recently, is if he just forgave Gunna and just said, look, I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to... Forget even trying to destroy his career, which we heard in that call, okay? He said, I'm dropping the same day. I'm going to ruin his career. Business is business. I'm trying to drop at the same time as him, and I'm getting 50% of his music, okay? If he just said, look, it wasn't telling, I took a plea as well. We both took pleas. We both admitted that the gang was a gang. Let's keep it pushing. Let's push some P rather than pushing rat accusations, okay? Because that's come back to bite you. Let's push some P. I personally believe, like, I got to give 21 Savage. I'm going to throw my hands up in a minute, okay? I've got to give 21 his credit. He was talking some sense. And if Thug had listened to 21 to begin with, he wouldn't be in this mess today. But the reason that I said that he's a snake, and I still believe that he is somewhat of a slithery, slimy fellow, is because rather than standing on business with Young Thug and keeping his position and saying, nah, bro, you wrong, you fucked up, this is going to come back and get you, like, I'm standing on it. When Thug pushes back, he basically says, like, yeah, okay, why don't you tell the world that he's not a rat, okay? Why don't you compromise your principles and, like, don't sleep on this, okay? Everyone want to talk about 21 Savage, snitches and rats. This guy done a song, and he got Morgan Freeman on the song talking about the difference between a snitch and a rat. So you're supposed to be the guy that hates snitches and rats the most out of everybody. You got a whole song about it. Like, you talk endlessly about how much he hates snitches and rats, okay? If that's your principle and you really want to stand on it, there should be no circumstances in any world that you believe, okay? There should be absolutely no circumstances that you believe a rat should be falsely cleaned up, all right, and protected from their rat status. For what, for money? You're going to sell out your moral snitches? You said you was the biggest, hardest going after the snitches and rats, okay? For money, you feel like, you know what? You said to Thug on that call, and we can go back to it. He basically said in the phone call, okay, why don't you clean it up for him? Why don't you clean it up for him? And low-key, in my opinion, extort him, all right? I'm about to play you the clip, but basically what he does in this call, and this is why I feel like it doesn't add up with his persona, is basically you got the guy that's the biggest hater of snitches and rats basically saying that, one, he kind of admits on this call that he doesn't really believe that Gunna's a snitch. He basically says, yeah, Gunna did what he was supposed to do. I kind of see, like, I feel like you're being too hard on him. And then in addition to that, he says, why don't you just clean up this rat narrative for money? Basically, he says, why don't you clean up this rat narrative, extract a whole bunch more of royalties from him and keep his career going, abandoning these principles that we apparently find. So it's so important to call out snitches and rats unless you're going to squeeze some royalties out of people. So let's react to the clips. I'll react to the comments, and then you guys can tell me, okay, I'll ride with what you guys, like how I said, I'm going to leave it to the streets to decide if somebody's telling. I'm going to leave it to the commenters. I'm going to leave it to the online detectives, okay, to decide whether or not he's a snake. But let's just recap a couple of key points why I felt like that at the time, and then you guys can tell me in the comments. They went on to speak for a... Hang on. I'm on the wrong settings right now. Here we go. Good 27 minutes, okay, just about the devious plans that Thug had to ruin Gunna's career. It was all planned. It was all orchestrated. None of this was organic. It was all orchestrated on purpose out of jealousy for what Gunna was doing. And 21 Savage, to his credit, this is why he's a two-faced snake, okay? At points in this conversation, he's trying to stick up for Gunna. He's saying, oh, Gunna ain't do you that bad. You should... And he's got the sense, the foresight of what I told everybody that Thug should have done, which is forgive Gunna and get to this money. He's kind of sticking up for Gunna and saying, oh, you know, why don't you clear his name? You're going to own half of his career. Like, you could 21 Savage, the snake that he is, he even says, yo, why don't you try and put Gunna in a really even word? Why don't you try and extort Gunna and tell him, look, I'll show my support and say that you're not a rat if you sign to me for another 4 albums and I get 70-80% of them. 21 Savage is a real snake behind the scenes, all right? This is very, very telling. And they go back and forth, and 21 Savage, he kind of changes his position. You can tell he doesn't really believe in what Thug's saying, but like a meat rider does, man, he lets Thug convince him, and then he's riding for Thug, and then he hops on the album and disses Gunna, man. So it devolves from there, all right? Basically, after this, we end up hearing Thug. He literally begs 21 Savage, right? He literally begs him, pleads with him, please, bro, go to the studio and do this project, okay? And 21 basically tells him that Gunna, that Thug should have helped clean Gunna's face up and taken the 80% of his career, basically extorting him. It's crazy. Listen to this.
Man, bro, please go to the studio and do the song, bro.
Yeah, I'm finna do it. I'm saying I don't think you should play it like that, bro.
Why?
I feel like you should have just made that nigga come in, like cleaned his face up and made him come in more. Like, if I need 80% of everything, 70%, I'm gonna tarnish your face card.
He said you should have extorted Gunna and said, I need 80% of everything or I'm going to tarnish your face card. That's what 21 is suggesting that Thug does. So look, here's why I feel like this is super snaky, right? Because you've got a guy that publicly talks about how much he despises snitches and rats. Got all types of songs dissing snitches and rats. This supposed to be is the biggest, like, moral position that this guy takes. His whole core, his whole essence is hating rats. He's a real street dude. He hates snitches and rats. He is desperate to expose snitches and rats for what they are. And he does eventually jump on the song, and he's got a few little pot shots for people telling on the song. Okay, but he's saying out of his own mouth, all right, this is my public persona. But behind the scenes, okay, you could clean this up, not tarnish his face card for money. You could say, I'm going to need 70, 80% of your whole career. So my principles that are so important, they can be set aside for money. And he's suggesting this as a position for Thug to take. He is pushing this. Gunna is somebody that he knows. Gunna is someone that I guess before this, seemingly cool with. They did songs together. But he's saying behind the scenes, okay, if you want to expose this guy as a rat, by all means, but I don't think you playing it right. And to be fair, I'll throw my hands up and say, at least at the start of this call, before he says you should take 70 to 80% of his career and clean up his snitching allegations, he's kind of being solid and he's given a good point. But as I say later on, because he bends over backwards and basically just says, okay, I'm riding with what you're saying, Thug, whatever, I'll jump on the album and diss him. I feel like that's where he's snaky. He's not being a snake to Thug. He's being a snake to Gunna, and he really sliming out his own principles. Like, if it's really that important for you that rats get exposed, then no amount of money in the world, no amount of money on God's green earth should convince you to allow somebody that's a rat that you hate to just have their image cleaned up, surely. Cold Thug, in my opinion, it sounds like he's telling Thug you should extort Gunna. You should dangle the freedom of his reputation above his head. Hey, Gunna came out of this on top, man. But as we're going to hear, okay, 21 Savage basically says, yo, you should capitalize on what happened. You should capitalize on Gunna. And he's speaking sense. He said, look, for all of this stuff that's happened, you might as well at least make money from it.
At the end of the day, bro, you did what you did, but we got to capitalize on everything we do in life, bro. Like, at the end of the day, saying, fuck a nigga, what that's really finna get a nigga for real.
Oh, definitely. You know, I still get 50% of a nigga album anyway, though, whatever album. but goddamn.
Yeah, but shit.
That's right.
It's still, yeah, like, it's the money, though. Like, shit, they can get the money by telling the world, like, well, I told him to do that. Just cause, like,
Business is business.
So just to reiterate, right? This is supposed he's money over morals, all right? Shout out to Munchie B, all right? And he said what he said about the situation. He morals over money, all right? His character, his morals, his belief are more important than money. Ain't no amount of money in the world going to convince you to say something that isn't your true belief in your heart. And I'm the same, all right? I jump on here. Some people don't like certain things I say. Maybe sometimes I say something that I maybe kind of feel like, okay, maybe I had the wrong idea about that. I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm here. I've got my morals. I've got my beliefs. I'm gonna call it like I see it, and sometimes I get it wrong. But at the same time, I still kind of believe 21 Savage kind of a snake. Like I feel like 21 Savage, he kind of like maybe a sellout is a better word. Maybe a sellout is better than a snake. You know, he really, really hates rats. He basically saying, look, you know, hey, why not? Why are you going to mess up the money though? Like, it's the money. Like, don't you think that, you know, we just got to capitalize off of this situation? Like, everything in life should just be capitalized on. You know, even your morals should be compromised for capitalism sometimes, I guess is what he's saying. So later in the conversation, like, I feel like there's numerous times where you can tell that 21 Savage doesn't really believe that Gunna's a rat. I feel like there's numerous tells, there's numerous moments. The fact that he's sticking up for him on this phone call, and maybe he did enough. If you set aside the fact that he was trying to convince Thug to basically clean up the snitching allegations for a bigger percentage of Gunna's career, if you can take that and you feel like that's not enough to undo, like if that's not enough to make him a snake in the overall maybe 60% of this conversation that he's actually sticking up for Gunna, and that doesn't make him a snake, and he's actually one of the realest people in Atlanta to ride for Gunna, that's fair. That's fair, and I could admit that, because to be fair, this is probably one of the most level-headed conversations I've seen in this whole thing. But I do feel like as soon as he gets any pushback from Thug, he doesn't stand on his position. He basically just says, yeah, like, feel how you feel. Yeah, do what you got to do. Like, I'll jump on the verse. He says, well, Thug, you can feel how you feel. You know, feel however you want to feel. And he basically does break it down, and he sticks up for Gunna. He says, in my heart, I don't believe that Gunna really intended to hurt you. But Thug says, hell no.
But at the same token, is like, shit, you feel how you feel. I ain't gonna tell you how you feel. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't, in my heart, but I don't feel like Shawty did what he did with the intention of hurting you. You feel what I'm saying? I don't really get that vibe from him. I feel like he's just green.
He said that I don't think Gunna really intended to hurt you. I don't get that vibe from him, okay? I think he was just in a tough spot and he wanted to get out of there.
Hell no. Okay.
Listen to these little girly little laughs. Hell no. Thug's in prison just planning how he can ruin this man's life out of jealousy. That's what's going on here. Listen to that little diabolical laugh, man. It's embarrassing.
Hell no. Okay. Is it anything in the entire world? If me and you were locked up and I told you to do that, would you do it?
Well, we different types of niggas, though.
We ain't.
He ain't, bro. That nigga, he. I'm saying, like, we earn a loyalty different than probably what he do to a certain extent.
So 21's basically saying, Thug said, hey, if I told you to take that plea, would you take it? 21 said, nah, I wouldn't take it. I'm built different. We built different to Gunna. We don't earn our loyalty and our respect differently to how Gunna did it, all right? And so what you're going to hear in a second is 21 basically asks Thug if he's seen his brother Unfunk's plea, all right? So, all right, this next bit, this isn't really relevant to this conversation. You know, this next part really does prove that young Thug is a snake. He merches it on God that he didn't tell his brother to take that plea. And then later on, we saw him on Twitter basically saying, yeah, I did tell him to take that plea. So this next part was another part where I felt like 21 had kind of been two-faced, okay? Even for that little bit of defense that he threw Gunna, that little bit of bail that he threw Gunna. After this, he basically just says outright, he's like, yeah, if that's how you feel, drop the album. I'm going to jump on the album. We're going to bury Gunna. Like, those principles and that position that he was pushing, if that was really how he said, like he said, I feel in my heart that he didn't really mean to hurt you. He said that's how he felt in his heart. But then he basically turns around, he says, look, Thug's not going with it. All right, rather than sticking with that principle position, 21 Savage could have come out of this thing looking good if he'd held that position throughout this whole thing and said, you know, could have said publicly, like, yeah, I don't believe that Gunna really meant to hurt Thug. But no, he like, well, Thug's convinced me, I'm going to jump on the project and diss him, and the whole project is calculated and created and crafted and being planned out meticulously to hurt Gunna, to hurt his chances, to hurt his album releasing. And basically, 21, as you see here, he just turns around. I'm not saying he's snaking Thug, I'm saying he's snaking Gunna, and he's kind of snaking out his own principles here. But 21 Savage basically kind of flips around, all right, the snake kind of wiggles over onto his belly, and he says, hey, I'm convinced. That's all it took. 5 minutes and 10 seconds. I'm convinced. He says, drop the album on the same day. Let's screw over Gunna then. Why not? I'm convinced after 5 minutes.
Yeah, man, drop the album. That nigga. I forgot about that.
Yeah, why I said shit in? That nigga said, yes, ma'am. God damn, bro. Like, that's crazy, nigga. I'd rather die before I ever in my life switch up on Lil Man. I'm dying. I don't give a damn.
Thug said he would rather die than switch up on his people. All right. And Thug goes on to say Gunna made it cool for everyone to take a plea. Now, this is before Thug got his plea. So it's cool when you do it to Yak Gotti, who's still facing his charges. And Thug actually pled guilty to gang charges, whereas... So look, it would be unfair to put it on 21 Savage and say like he should have had this same energy for Thug. Because realistically, this is the thing. And this is why, okay, it's actually probably fair to say that if 21 Savage continues to support Thug in light of these telling allegations, okay, now we know that behind the scenes, despite all of this snitches and rats hatred that he puts out there on songs, behind the scenes, he was pushing Gunna. Right? And yeah, he changed his opinion 5 minutes into the phone call, but at least at one point, his principle was that like, yo, what you did wasn't that bad. I don't really think that it's that serious. I feel like we should capitalize off this. And in the same way, he's more than within his rights to have that same position for Young Thug, to abandon his principles of anybody talking to law enforcement being an absolute no-no. He's more than welcome to abandon that and say, well, look, I was actually low-key pushing for you to be nice to Gunna to begin with. And I'm still going to rock out with Young Thug in spite of the fact that he had a 2-hour interrogation where he appeared to claim that other people did crimes. That is consistent, okay? That is consistent. If he's got that in the pocket. He can still hold out and still show support for Young Thug in light of all of these things that have been swirling around about him and the hypocrisy that's been proven. Because as we heard from this call, despite him changing his position, at one point he actually was giving Gunna some bail and basically giving Gunna some respect and saying, I don't think he really even hurt you that much. So again, later on, and this is kind of in 21 Savage's defense, even though after 5 minutes of the call, he kind of flip-flopped. Okay, he basically goes on, he does defend Gunna once again, all right? In all fairness, he does defend Gunna once again. And he pointed out something that I thought was very important that not many people have pointed out, which was that there was a third person in that car. There was a fall guy. There was somebody that was supposed to take the charges for those things, the guns and the drugs and the whatever was found in that car. Okay, and 21 Savage points out very rightfully, bruh, like, that's what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to put it on the person that was in the car. He said that wasn't his. He didn't say it was Thug's. He said it wasn't his, and there was a third person in that car that was meant to be the full guy. And even Thug kind of agrees with this at this point. And there was a very good point made in this as well that points out even more hypocrisy from Young Thug. All right? He goes on to say, you know, Gunna took the plea. He said the drugs and gun wasn't his in the car. And even Young Thug points out something that a lot of people keep capping. A lot of people saying, oh, Gunna and Thug were in the car. So when Gunna took his plea and said the drugs and the guns in the car weren't mine, he's putting it on Thug. No, there was a third man in the car. Some people have denied this man even existing, but he exists. And you're about to hear Young Thug admit that he exists. And 21 says, well, you had a fool guy. He was supposed to y'all were supposed to put the charge on the fool guy. 21 actually sticks up for Gunna here. It's very, very, very interesting.
Bro. Oh, that nigga, man, you want Jeffrey Williams in the car? It was a gun and drugs in the car. Was it yours?
He probably said that though, bro.
100%. But
you heard that? Now listen to that again. 21 said straight away, yeah, but he's supposed to say that. He was supposed to say that. Y'all both supposed to say that. You had a full guy. You had a full guy ready to go.
He probably said that though, bro.
100%. But you.
That's the
100%.
only part I don't agree with. I disagree with you on the other shit. He said that wrong, but that, like, nigga, it wasn't yours neither. It was the nigga who took the charge shit. It wasn't one of y'all. We supposed to say it was more than us in that car.
You see what I'm saying?
That's what he supposed to say.
That's all I'm saying. Because the DA ain't telling the judge. The DA ain't telling the judge and the jury that it was 3 people in the car.
Oh, so once again, I feel like this is points towards 21 Savage. He's talking a lot of sense. He's trying to talk some sense into Thug. So I'll give him that, all right? But it's the fact that he goes from trying to talk sense into Thug and then flip-flopping and telling Thug, I dropped the album on his head, you know, try and take a bunch of his masters and a bunch of his career, try and put him in a longer deal, try and get 4 more albums out of him. That's me personally, that's why I felt like he was a snake from this call, because he flip-flopping, he defending Gunna, which is his real position that he apparently holds in his heart. But then when Young Thug kind of pushes back, he changes his position. He doesn't stand on his position. I feel like he's behind the scenes telling another man to shake down another man for a situation you ain't got nothing to do with for money over morals. I feel like that's snaky. Like, look, All right. If one of my homies, all right, everybody knows that I rock with guys over at No Jumper. You know, Adam is my friend. Some people don't like him. Some people love him. Like it's a love-hate relationship. But you know, they got a big platform. There's been a lot of ups and downs. But that's my man's. That's my homie, man. Like Flacco's my homie. Remo's my homie. Like Lush, they're actually my real friends. I don't get no money. I don't even get when I pop up on No Jumper. I don't get paid. They're my homies. I'm going there to hang out. Okay. But if behind the scenes, all right, if behind the scenes a situation like this had popped off and I was on the phone to Adam talking about, yeah, man, like, you know, you should get Lush, like you should convince Lush that like you don't want to expose him. Like, remember that picture of Lush passed out on the floor? You should have said, yo, Adam, yo, you should tell Lush that he got to sign up for 2 more years with No Jumper for half the pay, or you're gonna release that picture of him passed out on the floor. All right, you can clean that up. Okay, so like, what do you think? Like, I'm thinking you could clean that up. And then in the next breath, I'm saying, but nah, Lush is a good guy, man. Like, Lush is a good guy. You shouldn't really do that to him. Like, I don't think he did nothing wrong, man. He be partying, he be passing out. You know, it ain't really. And you know, everybody knows everybody be taking pics and No Jumper. It ain't a big deal. And then in the next breath, I was like, but you know, like, maybe you could get Lush to just like do like a, you know, a 200 podcast deal for less money in exchange for you not releasing that image. That would be snakery. So later on in the conversation, I reacted to 21 also saying another point where he basically says like, look, I don't know, like, you know, I'm just trying to think of the best outcome. I'm just trying to think of the way for you to squeeze the most resources out of this possible. And, you know, again, this is where I feel like the two-faced thing comes in, because it's like on the one hand, I mean, he kind of just looking for the best for Thug in a way, and really it's kind of like, I'm saying he's snaking Gunna. I feel like what he's really trying to do is basically say to Thug like real stuff. Like he trying to say to Thug, keep it real. This is going to be a bad look for you. Like if you really take this guy out, like I don't really think he did anything wrong like that. But you know, if there's an opportunity to make money of it, let's just try and get the best outcome out of this.
Either way, I don't feel like you're wrong. I just be trying to just think of like what be the best outcome of every situation type shit. Like that's how I be thinking. Like, all right, you fucked up, but goddamn, what's the best outcome of this shit? Like
That's but how?
like,
What's the best
goddamn.
outcome though? What's the best outcome of it? Because I feel like it's really over with for your rap career. The album you put out might go number 1, but that's it after that. You know what I'm saying? It's like on some real shit now.
Nah, you got to you hold his career in your hand, bro. That's what I'm telling you. If you come out right now and tell the world what he did went wrong, because them folks already on the internet like, man, fuck all that. We rocking with them. Ever since he dropped that song, they like, man, we rocking with him. If you come out and tell the world that you was in agreement with that shit, his career ain't over. That's why I said, like,
I understand that part, but now
So this is interesting, right? Because he basically saying, look, we can clean up this snitching and it's going to be beneficial for you, and you hold his career in your hands. Now, as we now know, that was BS. That's not true. Gunna's thrived, and Young Thug has unfortunately, you know, he had his business project out, and that did better than Gunna's project, you know, by the numbers, whether or not you believe that Young Thug paid for some of those streams, as he claimed that he did. But essentially, this isn't true, all right? Even this little diabolical plot of, like, we're either going to bury him or we're going to clean his nose up, it just goes to show, like, what little influence they had, really, when they thought about it, right? Gunna actually was able to rise up above this. He didn't get his nose cleaned, despite 21 Savage basically suggesting to Young Thug, hey, you should clean this up for him for money over morals. And Thug didn't want to do it. And 21 Savage flip-flopped. He hopped on the album. You know, I feel like if 21 Savage was real and he really held that position, he wouldn't have hopped on Thug's album. Like, he wouldn't have actually been like, yo, I'm not going to help you to destroy this guy because I don't really believe he did nothing wrong like that. And that's where I feel like the snake allegation comes in, because it's like, you was behind closed doors talking about, I don't really think you right, and like he kind of did what he was supposed to do, and like he weren't really like that. So for him to hold this position in private and then kind of still try and bury Gunna, and it didn't work, and you know, you got all these opinions about how you hate rats, but then at the same time you kind of, you know, you willing to suggest somebody sells out on those morals for money. It's not consistent. And then it's like this next part, which makes me feel like they're both fake, is they basically say, like, Thug basically even admits, like, you know, like, maybe it would be better to backtrack with Gunna. Maybe it would be better to clean up his image. But then he says, well, you know, Lil Baby and Dirk and them, they've already hopped out the window and dissed him. So it's too late. You know, I have to stick with this position. A position that at this point, you know, 21 Savage doesn't fully believe. Even Thug sounds like he's on the fence, like he could actually backtrack and feel like, maybe there's a way that I could clean it up. But then he's saying, oh, it's too late. Now, this is why I feel like it's snaky. It's like, no, we got to save face because the big dog, Dirk, the big boy Dirk has already stamped it as him being a rat. And we need to fit in with what Dirk's saying. Like, we need to be under the umbrella of what big Lil Durk, all right, his opinion on rats is so important, all right, it's so important for us to be in line with whatever his opinion is. We now can't even backtrack, even though we know it's the wrong thing to do, all right, and 21, essentially, he's convinced and he ends up putting his verse on the album. And again, that's just my opinion. That's why I feel like it was snaky. Like, they basically throwing a man under the bus who they don't even think did anything that wrong, bruh, to live up to what they think Lil Durk, like, what, a bigger gangster than them. Like, they want to curry favor with him and they want to throw Gunna under the bus, somebody that they got personal relationship with for this? Sure. And Thug basically goes on to say, all right, that he basically holds Gunna's career in his hands. And 21 basically said, look, you can save Thug and you can save Gunna and you can make money out of this. Thug says he doesn't want to backtrack because he wants to make himself look good for Lil Durk, Lil Baby, Future, who cut ties with Gunna already. He says he can't backtrack now that those guys have dissed him. He's trying to look tough for Lil Durk. Durk said I could have been part of that Rico. I called Thug, told him everybody that I shot. I want to hear that phone call leaking.
Think about niggas like you, Wham, Dirt, Fudo, niggas who I really fuck with, who like my brothers, who already done like cut ties. Imagine niggas that y'all niggas already done cut ties with a nigga, and then I come and take a nigga and be on the nigga's side after they did what wrong. They can cause him.
Yeah, but.
So don't sleep on that, right? He said 21 already done cut ties with Gunna at this point. 21 don't even really believe what Gunna did was that wrong, but he just riding for Thug. I think that's snaky. That's a snake move towards Gunna. He don't even believe that he was that wrong, and he trying to stick up for him to Thug, but he still cut ties with him, and then he still put his verse on the project.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm slapping y'all.
No.
So Thug says, nah, it's like a slap in the face to Durk and Future and you guys that are already dissing Gunna on my behalf, even though we're orchestrating this whole thing and he ain't really do nothing wrong and I'm lying about my brother's plea. But I can't backtrack and lose face with Durk and the guys. And even 21 Savage, he then slithers back into the conversation and says, nah, them guys are wrong for jumping the gun. They should have waited for you. They should have waited for King Slime, please. They should have been on their knees, open mouth, waiting for King Slime to give his opinion on the situation before having their own opinions as men.
I know it ain't, because, no, niggas need to stop jumping the gun. Niggas be, like, I don't know, bro. It's
how you call that jumping the gun, though?
Because I'm not doing nothing until I talk to you. Like I told him, you know.
So 21 Savage basically is about to say that he called Gunna when Gunna got out after his plea, and he said straight up to to his ears, I guess, not to his face, on the phone, look, I can't rock with you unless Young Thug co-signs it. I cannot rock with you until I've heard from Young Thug, and Young Thug ain't rocking with you, so I ain't rocking with you either. Now that's why I feel like that's an interesting point to make, because on the one hand, you could say, look, 21 was solid to Thug, and he said to Gunna straight up, look, I can't rock with you unless King Slime stamps it. But at the same time, if from what you know about the situation, if what your personal beliefs are that he ain't really do no wrong, but then you still doing whatever this other man says, you still doing whatever Thug says, and yeah, okay, you're trying to convince him that maybe he handled it wrong, and maybe there's a play, and maybe some money to be made out of this situation. Really, if he didn't think that what Gunna did was really that bad, then it shouldn't have been that. It should have been, yeah, we cool. And if Gunna's calling his phone, clearly there's enough of a relationship for someone like Gunna to feel comfortable enough to call 21 Savage to get his opinion on this.
He called me when he got out. I told him, look, I can't fuck with you unless just fucking with you. Type shit. I ain't finna say nothing about you on the internet. I ain't finna let the world know I ain't fucking with you until just say so.
But you know,
that's what they supposed to did. Like,
but ain't nobody
niggas trying to go at him to get clout. Yes,
So 21's now saying, look, all these guys, Durk and so this is again, he's saying, all these other guys are going at him to get clout, all right? But you kind of doing the same thing. Yeah, he had that private conversation, but it's like, bro, you behind the scenes trying to, like, the guys called you to ask, and it's one thing to say, okay, I'm not rocking with you because Thug told me not to rock with you, but there's another thing to then call Thug and be like, hey, I spoke to him. I told him this, like, you should shake him down for more of his career. Like, you hold his career in your hands. Like, you could clean up this snitching allegation. Apparently snitching's cool if we clean it up and we make money off of it. Like, if snitching's cool, if it benefits you, then isn't all snitching cool? I don't know, man. So as he goes on, right, he basically he calls out Lil Durk and Lil Baby, and again, this personally I thought was a bit snaky, where he basically says, "Oh, Lil Baby jumped the gun," and then he basically is saying Lil Baby was in the wrong for talking about what the situation was with Gunna, but then Young Thug says, "No, Baby called me," and I feel like the fact that they're having this conversation, and 21 Savage, he's supposed to be cool with Lil Baby, he's on the same thing, he's behind the scenes talking to Thug about what Lil Baby should have done and dictating, saying that he's in the wrong for that. And then also, they go on to have a little hee-hee-ha-ha. They basically laugh it up about Gunna's lyric, basically saying that how is Lil Baby standing on so hard on Gunna being a rat when he in business with a rat, in a reference to QCP. All right, that's what ends up happening.
But that's still not that. Yeah, but that's still announcing what your position is, right? But I ain't saying they wrong. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they jumped the gun. But
niggas supposed to have a conversation with you for they do anything. That's just how I look at it.
So Thug is basically about to say, well, Lil Baby didn't jump the gun. He actually called me immediately and basically asked me, should I sever ties and basically be a dick to Gunna? Please, King Slime, we'll do anything you say. Oh, I can't do anything. I can't tie my shoes without Big Jeffrey telling me which fucking lace to start with. And he said, Lil Baby called me immediately and checked in and just said, oh, what should my opinion be on this before forming my own opinion as a man? What are we doing? Are we putting on? I can't lie, I was wilding in this video. I was hot in this video, man. My foot on Gunna's neck and trying to ruin his career for no reason, for jealousy? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Wham did, though. I talked to Wham, so we get on the phone. Hey, you told Buddy them do that? I'm like, hell no. He's like, all right, say less. Say less. Same shit. I'm smiling off top. Soon it happened. G-Off hit me.
Yeah, but you still at Buddy party though. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know, bro. Like,
yeah. He's saying you still at Buddy party. He's saying, Lil Baby, you're still at QCP's party. And as I said in my last video about this, man, QCP, a lot of people been telling me, nah, he was really in the streets like that back in the day, so he shouldn't be ratting. Now, I'm going to do a full investigation. I'm going to look into this, okay? I haven't had time to look into QCP street ties, but as I said in that video, once you touch 9 figures in your bank account, street rules are out the window. All right, you ain't got to worry about no telling. You ain't got to worry about no street rules, keeping it solid. When you got 100 million plus in the bank account, them street rules go out the window. That's the way that I see it. But it is kind of two-faced. You meant to be cool with Baby, and you guys, what Wham says goes. So you guys clearly really love and respect Lil Baby's opinion, but then at the same time, you on the phone with Thug talking about, I don't know, he shouldn't have been at that party. QCP a rat. It's kind of two-faced, kind of a little bit snaky towards Lil Baby.
That was pushed up on me knowing you were busy with a rat.
So now they're laughing. They're basically they're even laughing, right? They're even laughing at Gunna's lyrics. So they're low key rocking with Gunna. They're disrespecting Lil Baby on this call, right? And 21 Savage got the same position. Like, they kind of all low key on the call talking about, like, yeah, man, even Gunna said it, man. How you in business with a rat? Like, they low key dissing, but then in 1 minute, right? This is why the whole thing is such a mess, and I feel like they're all snakes. Because in one breath, you're saying, bro, we can just sell out and clean up snitching allegations for money and for points on people's career. But then in the other breath, you can't even party with, you can't even be at the party, you can't even be in business with somebody who's got snitching allegations on their name, even if they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, even if they're closing $300 million deals. It doesn't really add up. I don't know. You're going to have to tell me in the comments. And so, again, we're going to hear another reason, all right? We're going to hear another reason, another contradiction where even Thug, all right, he gives Lil Baby some bail, probably because he likes him, and basically says, well, he probably didn't know that he was a rat when he got into business with QCP, and they're locked in on some business stuff now, so it's kind of okay. It's kind of okay, but then you can't set your pride to the side and listen to 21 Savage when he's telling you, why don't you do the same thing? Do the same thing that you're allowing Lil Baby do for QCP. Do the same thing we're gonna get money together. Let that stupid street code go. Put that to one side and get some money together on a business tip. And that's why it's contradictory. It's hypocritical.
The thing about Buddy is, Buddy probably didn't know nothing about that before he started fucking with a nigga, and then a nigga really helped him. A nigga really took him where he needed to go. You know what I mean? So it's like, you done that can fuck with a nigga on you done that fucking with a nigga on a business tip. You see what I'm saying?
He said a business tip. He said, you guys are rocking with each other on a business tip, so ratting doesn't matter. Listen, man, I'm kind of spitting, man. Look, it's like ratting doesn't matter if it's in Lil Baby because we like Lil Baby and he getting money on a business tip with QCP. But then I couldn't bear to allow this same situation that 21 is suggesting to me to run for money because I'm just too hard done by.
I can respect his situation.
And that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. I feel like you should.
But what I'm telling you is, if
so look, he didn't really even get to land on his point, but I got to give credit to 21 Savage. He's pointing out the same thing that I'm pointing out, all right? And with hindsight, maybe I should have shouted that out a little bit more, all right? Because realistically, he's basically saying, look, I'm telling you on the same thing with Gunna. Like, why can't you run the same thing with Gunna? It's an exceptional point, you know? It's an exceptional point, even though behind it is pretty dark idea of we're going to clean up snitching for business.
that it make you a rat too if you fuck with him. Because I told him to do that. I can't tell no nigga to snitch. You can't get on the phone and tell me, hey, bro, hey, yeah, take that plea. But man, you better take that plea. And the plea saying, tell.
So this is why, once again, Young Thug's caught out again. He's tangled himself up. He King Spider. He really tangled himself up in a web here. Okay, he's saying, nah, because if I rock with him, like doing business. Now he's saying, now doing business with a snitch, that basically makes you a snitch. Like if I tell someone to take a plea, that makes you a snitch as well. But then he on Twitter talking about he told his brother to take that plea because he couldn't bear his mother to be without, you know, another son for a period of time. It had been 12 years or whatever he'd said. So again, if he just said it himself. He said, on God, I didn't tell my brother to take that plea. And now he's saying, yo, if I tell somebody to take a plea, that's like you snitch too. And then you said that's what you did all along. I'm really like, people keep telling me, yo, you need to find some positive stuff for Thug, but it's just like every single time I listen, I just feel like he contradicts himself more and more.
If the police ain't tell something, even though it's 100% lie, the police ain't. I feel like it ain't no difference if I get on the internet, if I do anything to say I told him to do that. Real niggas still gonna be like, fuck, nigga, you told. I don't give a fuck. Who told you to do it? Can't no nigga tell you to tell.
He's saying, can't nobody tell you to tell, man. He's saying that basically makes it the same as you telling. But then you said that you told your brother to do, you tweeted telling your brother to do the same thing. Like it don't make sense, man. It don't make sense. And so again, I'm about to basically explain, I'm about to play the clip to basically say, look, there was even a time when Thug was thinking about doing this. But then he says, well, people like Savage are still going to look at you as a rat. But that's not true because Savage done already explained in this conversation, like he really don't feel like he really meant to hurt Thug.
Thinking about this shit, I'm just woo. I might just be like, man, them folks did what they had to do. I don't feel like that was wrong. I swear to God, I was thinking about doing it before, but I'm like, shit, what the hell, that's gonna change? Savage still gonna look at you like, well, you a motherfucking rat.
So he just said, all right, initially, and this is why you can tell that he's a snake and he was really just jealous of Gunna. He says, all right, initially I was just going to see it as cool and just let it go and just say, well, what's it going to change in the trial? But then he's saying, nah, because everyone else, Savage and Dirk and them, they already looking at you like a rat. So I kind of have to show face with those tough guys and just ride with what they're saying. I'm just going to have to destroy your life, even though I don't even truly believe that you told on me. I'm just going to have to rock with this to show up for the other goons in Atlanta and in Chicago and all that kind of stuff, okay? Now, 21 goes on to say that he still thinks that Thug would be better off keeping Gunna's career going and keeping Gunna clean of the situation. But in the same breath, he says, I respect your position. If you don't want to do that, Thug, I'm going to still ride with you.
Because like, I can get 50% of this album right here that's going to go number one. I could get 50% of everything. I'm still going to get 50% of everything, but my words can make every album after this go number one. Fuck just this one. Feel what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But it's like shit. At the same time, it's like I respect it if money don't move a nigga too, because that's some real nigga shit too. Like, man, I don't give a fuck about making no money out that nigga no more. Like, ooh, I respect that too. Well,
so what's crazy about that, right, is 21 Savage is basically saying, look, I feel like you should consider this for the money. You should sell out your morals for money. And then in the same breath, he's basically saying, but if you believe that the money's not enough for you to sacrifice your morals, I fuck with that too. And it's like, bro, you hold in both of these positions at the same time. Like either you respect somebody standing on their morals, or you convince somebody to be a sellout for the money. I just feel like these two positions, they're untenable.
Well, I'm saying niggas got to think it's two people down there, because we down there with two people. You got to think morally, and then you got to put morals to the side when it comes to business.
Most definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
So again, like and this is why I feel like it's kind of snaky, because it's like these are two positions. Either you're somebody that believes in your morals, or you're somebody that's primarily driven by money and, you know, get in the bag, and, you know, you can sell out your morals. But it's like he kind of, low-key, this is why I feel like it's slimy, all right? He low-key basically holding both of these positions, and he's feeling out Thug. He knows that, I think he knows deep down that this was a bad move for Thug, and Thug shouldn't have done this. But at the same time, he keeping that trump card up his sleeve to basically walk back his actual real feelings about the situation, to essentially just ride with whatever Thug's doing. Because really, he kind of chasing the clout, thinking, yo, Gunna's finished. Whatever Thug says goes. Like, whatever Wham says goes. Like, in the hierarchy of whatever who says goes in Atlanta. Like, I guess 21 Savage is putting Thug above himself, and he's saying, look, I just got to rock with what Thug says, okay? So I'm going to come with the actual good advice that will actually help him out. If he followed this, it wouldn't have been so bad for him now. But then at the same time, I'm ready to pull it back and just do whatever Thug says and bury Gunna if that's what he wants to do. Kind of a two-faced move.
What you do? See, it's hard. See, guess what? It's easy for you to say.
Personally, I'm gonna keep it. He didn't just go in there and lie like, boy, Jeff did this. Feel what I'm saying?
He says Gunna didn't go in there and lie and say that Jeff did this. He just said he didn't do it and he took his plea. He's basically 21's basically saying he can't say it with his chest because he's got to keep up appearances with King Slime. All right, but he's basically saying, I don't know if I really see it as snitching. Like, I don't know if I see it that way. And then basically, after this, right, Thug really just struggles to answer how this plea actually hurts him, and he kind of clutches at straws. He can't really answer how this truly hurts him.
He lied but this what he did. He made, which they still got to prove the shit though, which I don't think they're gonna ever be able to prove because it's just not a game. He gave the jurors the agreement that it's a game. He said YSL is a game, and he know people in this on this trial who committed crimes in furtherance of the game. That means you did it. You see what I'm saying? You don't know nobody on this case. Yeah. That's a lie. That's a full-blown lie.
So, look, okay, that's Thug. He's basically convincing 21 and basically convincing, like, nah, this is why I don't rock with him. This is why it's not cool.
Like, you don't even know you don't know nobody on that motherfucking case but me, and dude, nigga. The only three people you know on the case. So who the fuck is you talking about? No folk made you lie. No folk said, nigga, YSL must end. Let me say, yeah, ma'am, nigga.
Yeah, fuck that nigga, bro.
So look, 21's convinced, and again, this is why I feel like it was a bit two-faced. You know, maybe Snake was too harsh a word, right? But I basically feel like, bruh, Young Thug basically made him walk back his whole position. As after all this convincing, you know, there's a bunch of back and forth. I mean, this video is already long enough as it is, but basically 21 still at the end of the court, and this is maybe why. Maybe I should concede. Maybe I shouldn't have called him a snake, okay? Because he still has this position. Later on, he says, look, but I feel like it's still slimy. He basically saying, yeah, but I still feel like you should pull up his contract and change his contract and take advantage of this and take advantage of him in the situation. Like, clean up the snitching, get the money over the morals. Like, it's just so hard. I'm going to read the comments at the end of this.
Yeah, I still say you tell that nigga, I still like finesse his ass. Like, I'm going to do this. Y'all change this up.
Like, he's saying, yeah, finesse his ass. Like, that's snaky, bro. Like, Gunna's calling you and you haven't, bro, like, this guy's got your number, he's calling you, and then you behind the scenes saying, yo, finesse his ass.
The contract, man. Still do what you do.
So, I don't know, man. They're saying they want to take the contract, man.
Yeah, man. Drop the album, man. I forgot about that.
Yeah, YSL should end. That nigga said, yes, ma'am. God damn, bro. Like, that's crazy, nigga. I'd rather die so I ever in my life switch up on Lil Man. I'm dying.
So, look. 21 said after all of that, he was convinced. He said, drop that album, okay? But look, let's see what you guys think, because really this is what's important, okay? I'm not ducking the fades. Let's see what you guys thought. Okay, I've given some extra reasoning, and it is what it is, man. My cat's in the way of the screen right now, so I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna need this little John to move, man. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. You in the way. You in the way, little man? Yeah, that's good. Jason, stay there. All right. All right. This is what it says, man. This is what it says. So it says 21 not looking like a snake. He looking like the only one that would actually make sensible moves in these situations. That's fair. All right, that's fair. I'm gonna give that a heart. Okay. Hey, listen, they're on my case, man. Look, I'm gonna have to throw my hands up and say, okay, maybe I was wrong. I feel like he's slimy. Okay, maybe he's not a snake, but he's slimy. He definitely Slytherin. He's how if this was Harry Potter, he'd be Slytherin. Okay, he said you're spinning the wrong narrative, saying 21 is being a snake. He's actually the one being solid and honest with Thug. That's fair. I feel like he was honest with Thug, but then also I didn't feel like he could stand on that position. I feel like he let Thug convince him otherwise. And so, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I'm going to give that a heart, man. 21 sounded like he wanted to be the voice of reason, but after a few minutes realized there was no reasoning with Young Thug, so he stopped trying. I feel like that's a fair comment. I feel like that's a fair explanation of what happened. I guess, you know, I felt like it was him flip-flopping on his position and not sticking true to what was in his heart. But I feel like that's a good explanation. I'll throw my hands up and say, if he realized that there was no reasoning with this guy and he stopped trying, that makes sense. Okay. People saying, I thought the call made 21 look more solid. That's fair, man. That's fair. People saying, Trap, you wrong for this one. 21 don't sound like a snake to me. Seem level-headed and logical. It's like, on the one hand, it's like, I felt like it was level-headed. I felt like he had the level-headed opinion, but then he didn't stand on it. He abandoned that opinion. Like, he had that opinion. He didn't feel like it was really that bad. That he didn't really feel like Gunna really did anything that was that wrong. But then he kind of abandoned that opinion. He trying to convince Thug to do some sort of in-between for the money, when really Thug shouldn't have been playing with his contract. Thug should really just have forgiven him off the rip with no conditions, all right? But, hey, people disagreeing with me, man. It is what it is. This doesn't make 21 look like a snake. It makes 21 sound smart. Okay, that's fair. All right. This is a good point. It's bigger than the snitchery. Thug is a sociopath. He just wants to make himself look gangster when in reality he's still the lame dude that put on dresses and lipstick. Oh my lord, I don't even feel like I can like that because that's so disrespectful. But I feel like the sociopath, we explored this in the last video that I dropped, okay? I think he really is definitely a manipulator, all right? Rather than taking on board and truly humbly under God, listening to 21 and saying, man, you're making some good points. He said, nah, it's all about me and I'm going to convince him that he's wrong. Okay, I think you're trying a little too hard to shit on 21 in this when he's really trying to talk Thug off a ledge without messing up his spot. That's fair. That's fair. All right, if this is really your friend and you really on some stuff where you like, I'm really trying to gently convince him because he's still in jail at this point. I'm really trying to gently convince him because really 21 was right. And now look at the situation. The young Thug down bad right now and Gunna up. I don't think either of them could have realized how badly this was going to go for Thug. 21's making sure no one gets hurt. 21 is moving smart to stop it fast. That's very fair. All right, forget about who's a snake or a rat. I can't believe like they're even talking like this on a recorded jail phone call. That's crazy. All right, I don't know. 21 looks like the smarter one on this, not a snake. Okay, that's fair. That's very fair. Rappers are a bunch of weirdos. The fact that young Thug can prance around wearing a dress and talk to the police for 2 hours demonstrates it's all a hoax. Thug sounds like a pure hater. That's facts. All right. Plot twist, these leaks are all Fannie Willis getting her get back for Big Nut. I don't see this as 21 Savage being fake. He actually tried to play devil's advocate. He's literally telling Thug to get in Gunna's corner despite their differences. His comparison to Umfunk was to show that Thug is being a hypocrite by supporting his brother and turning his back on Gunna, who did the exact same thing and took a plea. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. All right. Listening to Thug 100% lets me know he called Roscoe to get him to vouch for him when his interrogation came out. That's a very, very interesting comment, man. That's a very interesting comment. If you think 21 is fake for saying what he said, then you flat out bugging. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Look, I already tried to clean up the title, man, but I'm going to go one step further, man. Just for the people, man. For the people, I'm going to do it. I'm going to change the title of the video again. All right. I'm going to change the title of the video again. I'm going to try and please everybody with this one. Okay. This is my honest opinion. All right, let's call it Embarrassing 21 Savage Leak Proves He Was Right All Along. All right, is that fair? Is that fair? Okay, we've gone back. We got the play-by-play. All right, Embarrassing 21. It is still embarrassing, so I feel like it is an embarrassing leak. All right. Is that fair? Proves he was right all along. I still think Thug is a snake. I had it as proof Thug is a snake. But he was proves right all along. I feel like right now that's the fairest way that I can do it, okay? So, you know, anybody that's out here ready to expose me, all of that kind of stuff, look, I've listened to the criticism, all right? I've heard what you guys have said. It is what it is, okay? Maybe 21 wasn't. I feel like he was slimy. I feel like he was slimy. He was grimy. Maybe it was unfair to call him a snake, man. So, hey, listen, I'll throw my hands up. Maybe snake was a little too far, all right? I've gone through so much YSL content over the last few days. I've got snakes on the brain. Okay, it's snakes on a plane. It's snakes on a brain. Everyone's looking like a snake right now. I do think it was still slimy. I feel like that phone call, the way that he's talking about other people in the industry, the way that he's dealing with Gunna, the way that he's telling young Thug to finesse Gunna, I feel like that was wrong and that was slimy and low-key a little bit snaky. But okay, the people have spoken, all right? The people have spoken. And when I go to do the full-length documentary on the main channel, I will make sure, all right, to set the record straight and you know what I'm saying? Hey, I guess 21 ain't a snake. But hey, it looked like he unfollowed and refollowed. I don't know. See you in the next video, man. You'll see what's going on, man. There's going to be a lot more going on. That was a genuine nose wipe. That wasn't me trying to slat anyone down, by the way. Don't get it twisted, all right? I don't want to catch no Rico. Anyway, catch you in the next video. I'll set the record straight. I guess he's not a snake. Well, let's see. Let's see if another 21 call leaks, and we're going to find out, man. But hey, it is what it is. And I rock with 21, man. Phenomenal artist. I rock with him. Love his music. is what it is, man. But yeah, money over morals by the sounds of it. So I'm digging the whole deeper for myself. But look, I'm always going to keep it real, man. These are casual videos. I'm just giving my honest opinion. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm right. This breaking news is what it is. But I'm out. Sorry for the long one. Catch you in the next one. Peace.